everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Agent Box with me, Shamgani, and my co-star.
A beard. Yeah, that's like it. That's more like it.
Yeah. So, Abir, how have you been, man? What's been happening?
All right. I had a great opportunity this weekend. For the first time ever, I did something. That was great.
Yeah, just look, guys, just for context, I had Abir and Tanjira, our producer, and some other guy that works with us. We're not entirely sure what he does. Guy called Ahmed. We had him over. I had these guys over at my house because my building work is nearly done. So I had these guys doing some painting. I think it was just ridiculous, man. These guys don't know what they're doing. It's like, me and my wife had to then fix all the mistakes they made for the rest of the weekend. But anyway, no. Listen, guys, it was very nice to have you guys over. It was absolutely wonderful. These guys did a great job. No, thanks a lot, man.
No worries. Happy to help. Anything for you.
Well, look, I tell you what, Abir, let's get on with this week's episode. I think there's a sigh of relief. I think is the easiest way to put it. But today's show we're talking about this MAC review on the graduate route, and what does that actually now mean? Okay, so I think it was on, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday? We had the MAC review, which is the Migration Advisory Committee. They did a review on the graduate route, which, for those of you who might not be aware, is the old PSW or post-study work. Back in the day, they changed the name from post-study work to the graduate route. So that was what was under review. Last week's episode, we talked about this quite a lot. That last autumn, the government, James Cleverly, who's our Home Secretary, basically announced that they were going to be reviewing this 2-year ability for international students to stay in the UK once they've graduated without the need of having a job or anything like that. So they finish their graduation, whether it's an undergrad or postgrad, and the students can apply to stay in the UK for 2 years, and they get their permission, and then they can look for a job. They can do whatever they need to do during those 2 years. So there was over the last 6 months, there's been some looming threat that could be taken away. There's been leaked reports in the press that they were thinking about abolishing it. They're thinking about reducing it to 6 months. So there's been a lot of speculation, and all of that came to an end this week, where the MAC, this committee, they published the findings of their review. And I think it's really interesting that for those of you that have managed to actually have a look at the full review, I've read most of it. There's some really interesting stuff in there that there's absolutely no evidence, because you see, the thing is, and Abir, we've talked about this already, that the government couldn't just get rid of the 2-year kind of rule. What James Cleverly was looking for was for the MAC, for that committee, to prove that there is abuse of the graduate route. And I think what the MAC committee, the Migration Advisory Committee, came back overwhelmingly to say that actually there is no abuse at all of this system. And they have recommended
from its inception. I was a bit confused. How could someone abuse this route? Because in my limited understanding,
what the government was suggesting is that people are coming here, right? They're doing their degree, and then rather than going into work for their chosen field of study, they were getting jobs as carers. This is what the government was insinuating. This is what the government believed was happening, and hence this abuse of the system, that they're coming here to work in care, because obviously here in the UK there is a massive shortage of social care workers. So these are people that go into people's homes and look after elderly people, from washing their clothes to helping them have a bath, tidying their house, this sort of domestic help almost, what I mean? But in the UK we call it social care, and it is a vital role. We've got an aging population here in the UK. This is a role that is so important in our society. And in my previous career as a nurse, I've worked with social carers. I know exactly how hard these people work, but there is a massive shortage of such workers. And what the government was claiming was that these international students are coming over here. Yes, they're finishing their studies, but then they're going into working care. It's a ridiculous thing, because if I've just spent 30,000-40,000 pounds getting a degree, Why would I want to go and work as a carer here in the UK? You know,
I
I
don't
mean,
even clean my own toilets or clean my own sheds. Why would I care to for
it's,
others?
it's a stupid premise. But somebody in the government felt that this was a good way to kind of load the gun, if you like, and say to this committee, look, go out there and prove this. Well, the committee's come back and said, well, it's rubbish.
It just caused like unnecessary chaos in the industry, I felt, for the last 6 months or so. But thankfully, the review came out. They recommended that there has been no such abuse, and they recommended it to continue. However, having said that, I'm just not getting ahead of myself because these are just recommendations, no
See,
confirmation from.
this is something that I think we need to all appreciate in this sector. Certainly, as agents, you know, we need to understand this. That the fact that this committee has turned around and said, okay, so there's no abuse, and the committee is recommending that this stay. The government can challenge this. The government can challenge it. The government could still change the rules. Quite frankly, my personal opinion is that they're not going to do anything for the election. Okay, before the election, they're not going to do anything because it's going to be so difficult for them to challenge the very people that they asked to do this review. There was no point in asking them to do the review if you were going to challenge it anyway. So there will be a lot of resistance cross-party in Parliament if the government goes ahead and challenges it. But in theory, the government can. The government can challenge that.
But so far, we haven't heard anything from the government. So I think no news is good news in that regard.
Yeah. I think. Look. For us, for September 2024, it's a simple issue that business as normal, and in fact, we then become more competitive to the Australians, to the Canadians. You know, the UK, it remains very competitive, both in terms of cost, in terms of getting the visa in the first place, and now the opportunity, you know, continues for anybody to come here and take advantage of 2 years being able to study. The only downside that's happened, you know, since last autumn is the fact that you can't bring dependents. But my own personal view of almost 25 years of being in this sector, my personal view is even for master's students, there is a very, very, very small percentage of master's students over the years that I've seen who have talked about bringing dependents here. That usually you find master students from most markets are very much in their early 20s.
Yeah.
These are 23-year-olds, 4-year-olds who haven't even had the opportunity to get married yet or have children or, you know, have any such thing as dependents. So actually, I've seen very few people, other than the last couple of years, I've seen very few students that are coming over to the UK to study a master's in their mid-30s. This is not something that I've seen very often. So I don't believe the fact that we've taken away the dependence issue is going to have a massive impact on our recruitment. And in fact, to be honest with you, you know, yes, even for us at SAMS, our numbers are down from last year, but we are seeing month-on-month growth on applications. So actually, you know, there is a bounce back period.
I was actually looking at the data from Convera as well. They say that the deposit since last May to this May has dropped to 57%. But at the same time, since it's been only 2 days, we haven't seen the effect of this review come into effect yet. But we can see the application volume is just increasing.
I mean, every university across the UK is reporting that their numbers are down, and roughly around about 50%. I mean, that's what most people are saying. The numbers are down by 50%. But that's only because the last 2 or 3 years was an unprecedented reality, which ironically, the irony of it is that the universities couldn't cope with those applications. I mean, I worked in 2 universities during that time, and both universities were not able to actually process, you know, almost tens of thousands of applications. Do you know what I mean? So there was no point in this.
The turnaround time was like longer. The service went out of the window. It was a chaotic time last few years.
It was very chaotic, and I think look, even when I speak to colleagues, when I speak to, you know, sort of you know, universities as well, they're telling me that even the last couple of years, look, everybody did well, right? That we can't shy away from that. You know, most companies out there performed really well, and, you know, universities performed well. But the number of offer holders to then deposits, their conversion rates for many, many people, the conversion rates plummeted, were very, very low conversion rates because they just couldn't cope with the volume. So in a lot of ways, I'm not all that concerned that numbers are down, because I think what we need to do, which is what we should be doing, is what we were doing pre-pandemic, is concentrating on conversion and
Mhm.
actually bring your conversion rates up. Then you get more or less the same sort of enrollments, and there's negligible impact on what's going on. And in fact, what you end up with is better students,
Yeah.
because the post enrollment attrition over the last few years has been high, where people enroll and then they just go off radar. You,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And they
There is another thing. I think we covered this a few times in our podcast as well. There is a time thing that I mentioned, that there is a certain number of agents who missold the graduate route to the students. So they also share that concern as well.
Well, this is an interesting thing, and before we talk about this, right, I have to say that, look, the Agent Box comes to you every Thursday from the UK at 11 o'clock. Most Thursdays, almost every Thursday. There are the odd Thursdays where we don't broadcast because of either something's
We
got.
wake up and we feel like we don't want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. But the Agent Box, we're able to do the Agent Box, which is sponsored by Sam CRM, which is a CRM system designed for agents by agents. Okay, so it does offer some really good solutions. If you're an agency out there, you don't have a CRM system, it's certainly worth speaking to the Sam CRM guys. And you can contact them on sales@samcrm.co.uk, and they'll get back to you within 24 hours to talk to you about what our what the system can offer you. But nevertheless, my opinion, Abira's opinion is, regardless of which CRM you guys are choose, get a CRM. Okay, because
And
you
it's
need
going to
to.
be very important in the next few years. And I'm sure we're going to discuss that in detail because this is very close to
Yeah,
Shambhai's heart.
yeah. Because what the Mac review has done, coming back to this issue, so there's two elements to it. It's on the one hand talking about the graduate route and the fact that there should be no changes. So it's recommending to the government, don't make any changes to the graduate route. It benefits the UK, it benefits students, it benefits the universities. But at the same time, what it is saying, and it is recommending to the government, that you need to ask the universities to change the way they're working with agents. Okay. And this will be a seismic, fundamental shift in the way that the UK deals with agents. Because what do I mean? Right now, I could open an agency tomorrow, call it shamsedu.co.uk, right? And I just want to say, if there is a company out there with that name, I'm just saying Sham as in my name and edu as in education. That's all. But basically, I could set up a company tomorrow and I could then tout myself with all British universities and say, hey, look, you know what? Can I get a contract? Can I get a contract? Or, I could maybe find a friend on LinkedIn who happens to be contracted to a particular university. And any which way I could I could contact universities directly online. And I could actually try and get some contracts. Okay. Of course, I could then work for an aggregator or whatever. What the Mac review is saying is this needs to stop, that there needs to be an official government registration process for any agency. And what that means is this: the registration process is just the front end. What the Mac review is telling the government is the government, need to have a database of agents that are operating with British universities. That's
And,
what they
and just not agents, it also said, because I
and
spent actually
sub-agents.
2 hours reading agents and sub agents. So that's very critical as well.
Yeah. That this is something that is, like I say, a major shift. I've been involved with, sort of associations and stuff like that amongst British universities, where the university sector as a whole has been a little bit resistant to this. The government, this has been floated in the past. Do you know what I mean? That have some kind of regulation, some kind of, because the registration doesn't come on its own. For those people who don't know, and really we should, if you're an agent watching this, today, if you don't do anything else, do one thing: go and have a look at the agent quality framework. The British universities, the British Council, they have created a framework which is not new. This originated years and years ago in something called the London Statement, right, where universities came together in London and basically accepted a set of rules that they will work by when it comes to agents. Okay. And these agent, I mean, any agent needs to follow. And most university contracts have been put together with elements from the London contract. Sorry, the London Statement. What that has now become is the agent quality framework. Okay. And as the name suggests, it's to do with agents, it's to do with quality, and it's a framework. So universities are being asked to sign up to the AQF, and a lot of universities have signed up to this. It's still voluntary at the moment. They're signing up to this, and that means that they're making a pledge that we will work with agents in this particular way within this framework. And if we as agents don't know what that framework is, then it's going to come as a big surprise. Do you understand? And we don't know what our own clients are planning. And it is public information, so we should be able to go and have a look at it. What the government is now saying is, let's take that a step further. Like I said, this is a voluntary process at the moment. The government is, or the MAC review is suggesting to the government that they have an actual regulatory body that creates a definition of what is an agent, what is allowed for an agent, what is not allowed for an agent, what an agent needs to be able to do, not do, da 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 da, and create a database of that list of agents. And there is a possibility that they could go as far as linking that up with the UKVI, which is similar to what the Australians do. The Australians can tell which COE, which is the equivalent of our CAS, has been issued to a student, and that student was looked after by which agent. So they can trace that. What the MAC review is also saying, as you quite rightly said, Abir, that it also should cover sub-agents. So this is a change in the way that we're being asked to work. Now, everything that Abir and I have been talking about ever since we started the Agent Box, and before that, when it was still called EdRec Radio, everything we've been saying, right, over the last several months, is now coming home to roost. Okay, that if you don't have control over your business, over your data, over your students, over your processes, over your performance, you are going to be left by the roadside if it comes under regulation, because then we can't hide.
Yeah, I think UKVA should hire us as consultants on this project.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea. You know what? We'll talk about that later. But the issue here is that, yeah, if we don't become professional in the true sense of the word professional, so that we've got systems, we've got policies, we've got procedures, we understand our performance, we understand our, how we do business, where we do business from. If we don't know these things on paper, we might know them in our head, but on paper, provable, we can actually show this, then we're going to come unstuck. And the starting point for these things is the CRM. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that just because we're sponsored by Sam CRM. I'm saying that as a genuine, kind of statement, from a professional who's been in the business for a long time, that if an agency doesn't have a basic tool like a CRM system, you're going to come unstuck, because you're not going to be able to prove anything. In fact, universities are now starting to consider that how can they have CRM systems to manage their own information, and that will extend to how they work with agents.
And this reminds me, Shambai is working very closely and with a working group. And I know a lot of our university partners watches this. So if you're interested to be part of that working group, please get in touch with Shambai. He has been working with a active working group to design something for the universities to manage their agents better based on the agent quality framework.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was very timely. It wasn't deliberate. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't deliberate, but it's become a little bit serendipitous that actually what we're working on has been quite timely with what the MAC review has been saying. But actually, there's an awful lot of interest. I've had a lot of people interested in joining us for a roundtable discussion, and what we're going to be doing is from that roundtable discussion, actually then creating that working group in its true sense. To help develop certain solutions, but and those solutions already we're working on. We've already got made decent progress on a lot of those. It's now a time to actually start sharing with some of the university partners. So the point here is, guys, that at the end of the day, the MAC review has been great news for us because it doesn't change the landscape. I think everybody was a little bit worried that if the government was going to be, or the MAC review was going to recommend to the government, get rid of the graduate route, that would have created a huge ripple in our business, would have really affected our September numbers. I think most people would have seen a sharp, decline in inquiries, applications coming through. Thankfully, that hasn't happened, and that's a big blessing for us. But what is coming is this idea. I believe there's going to be far more conversation about this, about the regulation around agents. And what I'm interested to know is in July, I'll be at the Boiler Conference, promoting one of our products. I'll be very interested to hear what the analysis or the post-match analysis is amongst the universities. And usually at the Boiler Conference, there's the UKVI turn up, the British Council will be there, Universities UK will be there. There'll be policymakers at that conference who will be able to give some insight as to which way the government is thinking about moving. Bearing in mind, of course, this could be a dying government. This could be a government on their way out. So it's all to. I mean, in my mind, it's all to play for right now. But yeah, I mean, this is it. Look, it's 21 minutes in. I don't want to procrastinate on this too much today. I want to have a short, sharp conversation around this, and I think we've said everything that needs to be said. And we all need to be a little bit vigilant, a little bit. Let's not be complacent just because the MAC review said, oh yeah, PSW graduate route is fine. We then just think, okay, let's just go out and do whatever the hell we want to do, because like we said right at the beginning, the government could challenge it. So let's be vigilant. Let's be working with, quality students. Let's get our counseling, scissors really sharpened, so we know exactly how we're talking to our students. We're managing their expectations, and then we're not, going to be hit by any weird, sudden, kind of derailment further down the line. That's it, really. For me,
conversation actually in continuation to this. So next week we're going to talk about the ethical considerations in student recruitment, which I think falls within this criteria as well.
Sorry, what are we talking about? Sorry, Amir, I missed that bit.
So we are talking about ethical considerations in student recruitment.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's actually quite good. That'll be nicely segued into that, because there is an ethical way to recruit, and there definitely is an unethical way to recruit. So it'd be good to explore that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, folks, I mean, it's all positive for the moment. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep our eyes and ears to the ground, though, and watch out for any weird bumps on the road. But for this week, that's it from us. I mean, you can get in touch with us at theagentbox@gmail.com, or you can ring us on the number. I'm not going to read it out. It's running away from me too quickly. But also, like I keep saying, guys, go check out our website. Okay, it is still, there's still tweaks happening to it. Theagentbox.co.uk. We are voluntary. The whole Agent Box comes to you as a voluntary, kind of thing, as an extracurricular thing. So both myself, Avira, the producer, we're all got full-time jobs, but we're trying to build, a community voice for agents. Any feedback that you give us, anything that you tell us we're doing right or we're doing wrong, we are always happy to hear, and actually we will make changes. We will, sort of do things slightly differently if that's what we need to do. But it's also nice to know that if we're doing something right, we're doing something the right way, then people feel comfortable. That's it from me this week, Sham Ghani, and from my colleague, partner in crime, anything but co-star, that's it from us this week, and until next week,
happy recruiting, and see you next week.
Excellent, brilliant. Cheers, buddy. Take care, man.